I recently had to deal with something no family should ever have to face. Our home got raided in the dead of night by HOA enforcers in full tactical gear, and the reason? A plant violation. My neighbor was grinning like she'd just stopped a national security threat, but what she didn't know was that my wife is a Green Beret sniper. Let me start from the beginning. Before we dive in, let me know where you're listening from today. There's a specific sound tactical boots make on tile. Not stomping, not running, just this dull, steady rhythm, heavy, unapologetic, like someone walking into your house already knowing they're not leaving without a fight. I hadn't heard that sound since I left the Navy, so when it echoed through the hallway inside my house, I didn't need to ask Sarah if she was right. She already was, but I'm getting ahead of myself. This all started with a lavender plant. Not a bush, not a jungle, one potted lavender in a rust-red clay pot nestled next to our mailbox. Sarah planted it the morning after we moved in, said it made the house feel lived in, peaceful. I thought we finally had a place to exhale, safe, steady, no noise, no transfers, just coffee on the porch and neighbors who waved. Sarah said the roofline gave us clear sight lines of all four corners. I assume she meant it had nice gutters. Our son, Alex, didn't even pretend to care as long as the Wi-Fi hit his room and the fridge stayed stocked. He was golden. 1 week in, the letter came. No stamp, no envelope, just slid under our door with surgical precision. White paper, bold print, the kind of message that doesn't knock, it enters. Notice of violation, HOA Regulation 12, unauthorized plant arrangement, lavender. Sarah read it, blinked once, and said, "They're probing." I said, "You mean they're allergic to purple?" She didn't laugh. "They're testing the perimeter." Alex shouted from the kitchen, "Wait, are we in trouble for a plant? That's like getting arrested for having a salad." I told him it was nothing, just a flower. Sarah didn't say anything. We ignored the letter. The second one came 2 days later. This one with a photo, black and white, our porch, our mailbox, the lavender in full frame. It was taken at night. Sarah taped it to the fridge like a wanted poster. "Now they're watching," I told her. "Let it go. It's a homeowners association, not an intelligence agency." She said, "You were confusing the two." Then came Karen. No knock, no warning, she just materialized one morning like a sour ghost in a beige polo shirt, clipboard, visor, 2 inches too tight. "Good morning," she chirped. "I'm here to help you resolve your non-compliance." Sarah smiled. I didn't know we were at war. Karen ignored her. Lavender isn't on the approved species list. It creates visual inconsistency and may attract stinging insects. That's a liability risk. I opened my mouth to respond. Karen raised her hand like a traffic cop and said, "The board has already spoken." Sarah didn't miss a beat. "Well, let me know when the board sends someone taller than your clipboard." Karen blinked just once, then turned and walked off like she just sentenced us to exile. That night, Sarah started the first drill. Alex stood in the backyard wearing a bike helmet and holding a garden rake like it might bite him. "Are you serious?" Sarah tossed him a poodle noodle. "Disarm the perimeter. Roll, scan, sweep." He groaned. "This isn't a war zone, it's a backyard." She didn't even look at him. So was Kandahar. She still didn't look at him. I watched from the porch, felt like I was watching her from a distance I couldn't cross. Alex finally snapped. "Why are we doing this? This isn't normal." Sarah stopped. "Neither is surveillance." Alex stared at her. So did I. She turned away before we could respond. Again, we didn't argue. Then the third letter came, with a fine. The fourth said, "Enforcement pending." The fifth, a red sticker on our front door that read "Final Review." That night, Sarah opened the basement, pulled out a black case I hadn't seen since we met. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. I stood in the hallway and thought about all of the times she'd saved other people, her squad, her intel crew, sometimes me. But no one ever taught her how to let someone else protect her. And now our son was watching her step forward, watching me hang back. Then came the quiet. The kind of quiet that happens before something breaks. The dog stopped barking. The streetlights buzzed once and flickered out. The hallway light dimmed, then steadied. I took one step toward the front door, and that's when I heard it. Boots. 3 pairs. Heavy, confident. They weren't stomping, they weren't rushing, they were just walking. They didn't knock, they didn't ask, they just stepped into our front yard like it already belonged to them. Sarah said at first, "They're not professionals." I was crouched behind the curtain, watching them fan out across the lawn. 3 men. Uniforms too clean, boots too new, moving like they were following a YouTube tutorial on how to intimidate without authority. Sarah stood in the hallway, arms folded, posture loose, but her eyes were locked in. A down the stairs, held his phone like a weapon, recording. Good, at least one of us was thinking tactically. "I think one of them is wearing knee pads," I whispered. Sarah didn't laugh. "He's the breacher. Look at how he's scanning the base of the door, checking for kickback clearance." I stared at her, jaw tight. "He's here to kick in the door. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much." "If someone gives the go," she said, "they're not here for conversation." She turned and started walking slow and silent toward the mudroom, toward her boots. I stepped into her path. "Wait, shouldn't we, I don't know, call someone?" She looked at me, calm, not cold, but the kind of calm you don't argue with. "John, if you're going to try and stop me, pick a better moment." I stepped aside. The first knock came like a challenge, 3 sharp raps, precise, not loud, just assertive enough to make you feel like you were late to your own punishment. Alex flinched. Sarah didn't. I opened the door slowly. They didn't introduce themselves, didn't flash ID, just stood there, 3 broad chests, blank expressions, and 1 clipboard sandwiched under a forearm like a contract with consequences. "Good afternoon," the lead one said. "You are in active violation of HOA Regulation 12.4. We're here to initiate final compliance procedures." He said it like a cop but moved like a mall rent-a-cop with delusions of grandeur. I tried to speak, got as far as, "Are you?" Sarah stepped out past me, just walked into the middle of them, sleeves rolled, hair back like it was a Tuesday. I couldn't decide if I was proud or terrified. "Final procedures?" she asked, tilting her head. That's a big phrase for a man wearing a fake patch and knockoff Oakleys. The guy blinked. His partner, the one with the big belt and nervous fingers, adjusted slightly toward the flower bed. The third one veered toward the driveway, angling wide. "They're boxing us in," Sarah murmured, flanking from the east. "Watch his hands." "Excuse me," Clipboard said, trying to regain control. Sarah didn't break eye contact. "I was just wondering how long you practiced this little dance. Did you rehearse the clipboard handoff? Because your transitions need work." He flushed. "Failure to evacuate will escalate the process." "What process?" she asked. "The one where you get filmed failing to unholster a taser before being zip-tied to a mailbox." And just like that, she was gone. Not literally, she just moved quiet, fast, 1 step backward into the hedges, gone like a puff of smoke. The men reacted too late. One spun, yanked out his radio, barked something about backup. The other scanned the porch, maybe looking for me, maybe for Sarah. Then the sprinklers exploded. But not with water. Chalk-white clouds shot upward like dust bombs, non-toxic but blinding. Sarah had retrofitted the irrigation system last week. I'd thought she was trying to conserve water. 2 of the men staggered, choking, coughing, eyes red. The third raised a taser, too slow. Sarah dropped from the tree limb like a panther, hit him square in the back. His knees buckled, the taser clattered across the grass. Alex gasped. I heard him whisper, "Mom." Sarah didn't answer. She was already moving. She hit the second guy hard, disarmed him, spun, zip-tied him with 1 clean motion, like she'd done it 100 times. She probably had. The first guy backed up fast, hands up, chalk still floating around him like smoke in a nightclub. "We're HOA contractors," he sputtered. "This isn't." Sarah stepped closer. He flinched before she even touched him. She just reached slowly and pulled the clipboard from his arm. He didn't resist. She flipped it open, thumbed through the top pages. Her jaw didn't move, but her grip tightened. "John," she said, that tone, no hesitation, just a warning. I walked up beside her. My hands were shaking just slightly, not from fear exactly, from the slow, crawling realization that I was behind again. The clipboard wasn't a checklist. It was a field brief, coordinates, satellite photos, yard layouts, times, notes in the margins, when Sarah watered the lavender, when Alex took out the trash, when I went for groceries, what route I took. Even what time I usually left the porch to lock the back gate. Then, at the bottom, in thick black marker, Phase 1, contact. Phase 2, removal. Phase 3, asset recovery. Sarah exhaled just once. Alex walked up slowly, eyes wide. "Asset? What asset?" Sarah didn't look up. "They've been tracking us for weeks." Alex looked at me. "Why?" I didn't answer because I didn't know, because I'd been too busy believing this wasn't real. We sat them all down on the porch. Sarah stripped their radios and weapons, dumped everything into the garden bucket by the steps. Alex helped wordlessly. I saw it in his eyes, the shift. This wasn't pretend anymore. Sarah laid the clipboard on the table like evidence in a trial. "They weren't the lead team," she said. I nodded. "This was recon." She stared toward the end of the street where the sun had started to dip behind the oaks. She wasn't breathing hard. She was calculating. Then she looked at me, not scared, angry, and underneath that, steady, like she'd already mapped out Phase 4. I finally looked at He-Man slumped by the flower bed, covered in chalk, still wheezing. We hadn't just been warned, we'd been targeted. And the real strike? It hadn't even started yet. Whoever sent them wasn't coming for compliance, they were coming for control, and Sarah was about to make them regret the schedule. 3 zip-tied men on our porch wasn't a win. Not to Sarah. To her, it was reconnaissance, a warm-up, a pressure test. She didn't celebrate, she analyzed. While I was still pacing the kitchen, trying to stop my hands from shaking, and Alex was trying to lure our dog away from the chalk-covered guy in the flower bed, Sarah was at the dining room table, already 10 moves ahead. She spread out the clipboard like a war map next to it, her laptop, a legal pad, and the original HOA welcome packet, the one Karen had dropped off weeks ago, all smiles and sanctimony. Sarah pointed at a contractor ID code. "This number doesn't match the state registry." I squinted. "That's bad, right? It's fake. This company doesn't exist outside the HOA records." She tapped the HOA ledger. "Karen's been rerouting dues, neighborhood fees into this." "Karen has a shell company," I said. Sarah didn't look up. "Karen has a war chest." Alex leaned in from across the table. "Wait, like money laundering?" "She's using HOA funds to pay for private security, surveillance, tactical uniforms, non-traceable enforcement?" He blinked. "That's not normal." I sat down hard. "We need to call someone. A lawyer. The actual police." Sarah was already writing a list. We didn't sleep that night. Sarah dove headfirst into the HOA server, no hesitation, just keystrokes and search filters, and an expression like she was back on an op, deep in hostile territory. Alex hovered behind her like a caffeinated intern, occasionally helping, occasionally logging himself out of the Wi-Fi. I stayed quiet because every time I opened my mouth, I realized how little I knew about the world my wife had spent 15 years surviving in, and how badly I'd underestimated what she was still capable of. She pulled up a PDF. "Look at this budget proposal from 4 months ago. Karen pushes through a new charter clause, expanded security oversight authority. No oversight, no cap." She gave herself a blank check. "Sentinel Grove," I said, reading the name on another file Sarah pulled up. "That's who those guys were. Karen's hired muscle." Another file, then another. I watched her scroll faster, her breath catching just slightly. "John," she said, pointing to a redacted entry marked RE47. "Rapid response event?" I asked. "Look at the board notes. That's the designation for forced removals. She's done this before." One by one, we found the reports. Lot 29 was listed as uncooperative tenant. Lot 47 was eviction escalation authorized. Lot 51 was a noise complaint resolved via perimeter reset. They made it sound sterile, like data entry, like it wasn't real family. Sarah read one aloud. Her voice didn't even crack, just went flat. Security team executed breach protocol at 6:30 hours. Property secured by noon. No further incidents. Breach protocol. I muttered. She's running tactical sims on real people. She's testing escalation, Sarah said, gauging how far she can go before someone fights back. And if no one does. Sarah closed the laptop. Then she takes it all. That morning, we walked the neighborhood. Not for exercise, not for fresh air, for intelligence. And you know what? It felt different, like the houses knew we knew. One neighbor paused while watering her roses, watched us for 2 seconds too long. Another pulled his shades closed just as we passed. Alex noticed the dog that always barked at us, silent. Then we started seeing the signs, yard gnomes with tiny black lens glints, stickers with QR codes hidden behind Vote for HOA treasurer flyers, security decals slapped on fences that linked to dead websites. For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much. Alex was the one who spotted the van, black, no plates, parked 2 blocks over, tinted front to back. Inside, wrappers, fast food bags, and a plastic folder marked HOA. Field Op, Westfield Zone. Sarah took photos of everything, angle, timestamp, tire tread. Back at home, a new flyer had been pushed through the slats of our front gate, printed in all caps, serif, like a propaganda poster, "Neighborhood unity is everyone's duty. Those WHO disrupt harmony invite removal." Sarah held it with 2 fingers like it was radioactive. Alex looked at us. "So, is this like a coup?" Sarah looked at me. "It is now," I said. And if this was a coup, then Karen wasn't just the face of it, she was the general, and we were now living behind enemy lines. We should have known something was coming when the block got too quiet, too early. Not peaceful quiet, not holiday quiet, just off, the kind of quiet that makes your stomach tighten before your brain catches up. No sprinklers, no garage doors humming open, no kids screaming over whose turn it was on the swing set. Just stillness. Sarah paused with the knife in her hand. She was mid-chop on a pile of sweet potatoes, her head tilted slightly. I asked, "What's wrong?" She didn't answer. She wiped her hands, tied her hair up, and headed for the porch without another word. The second was the smell, smoke and sweet sauce drifting across the lawn like it had a message to deliver. Grilled meat. Charcoal. Smelled good. Too good. Alex peered out the window. "Is there a party across the street?" I joined him. Folding tables, plastic chairs, gingham cloth flapping in the breeze, red, white, and blue bunting. Karen, in full display, flipping burgers with one hand and talking to a small crowd with the other. I said, "We didn't get an invite." Sarah peered behind us. "That's because we're not supposed to be part of the show." I turned. "What show?" She nodded toward the tableau. "This isn't a barbecue, it's a broadcast." We ate on the porch anyway, out of defiance, I think. Chicken, rice. I poured iced tea like it was some kind of normalcy spell. That's when we heard it, high-pitched, metallic, close. A buzz above the rooftops. Sarah's eyes tracked upward instantly. There it is. The drone was slick, matte black, 6 rotors blinking red, lens. Not a hobby drone. Military style. Custom build. Carbon frame. Precision hover. It wasn't flying, it was watching. Alex narrowed his eyes. "That's following us." "No," Sarah said. "It's following me." I stood. This is insane. We're being filmed now? It's more than that, she replied. It's logging behavior, pattern matching. It's not surveillance, it's profiling. The drone inched lower, red lens spinning. A second light blinked green underneath, then blue. Audio sync. Alex's voice dropped. It's listening. Across the street, Karen raised her solo cup toward us like a queen making a toast. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Then she turned back to her guests, laughed at something, and kept flipping burgers. A few of them looked our way, just briefly, then looked away like they hadn't. I stepped in front of Sarah. Maybe we go back inside? She stepped around me. You can. I hesitated. She wasn't being reckless, she was making a point. Sarah stepped forward to the edge of the porch and stared at the drone. Didn't blink. Didn't move. The drone adjusted its lens, tracked her exact movement, inch by inch. Then the porch light flickered once, twice. My phone buzzed, then cut out, dead signal. Alex's screen froze. No service, no Wi-Fi. They're testing blackout thresholds, Sarah said. Electronic isolation. That's next in the escalation chain. I was about to respond when I heard a second buzz, smaller, closer. The garden drone. It zipped out from under the arbor like a hornet, sleeker, quieter, fast. Sarah moved first. She grabbed the rake off the porch like it was a baton and stepped sideways. Her stance changed, low, balanced. She waited. The drone dropped into range, scanning. Sarah's arms moved in a blur. One swing, direct impact. The drone crumpled midair and slammed into the rose bush. Alex let out a half laugh, half gasp. Holy language, Sarah said, already sitting back down. The main drone backed off, wavered midair, then zipped upward, high over the rooftops, until it vanished from view. I looked across the street. Karen was still smiling, but her crowd was thinning. Someone gathered their paper plate and whispered to their spouse. Another dad yanked his kid out of the bounce house with a stiff smile. A woman stepped away to take a phone call that didn't look urgent. One guy, the one who usually made dad jokes at the mailbox, caught my eye for a second, then quickly looked away. They saw it, I muttered. They're calculating, Sarah replied. What happens now? She cut another bite of chicken, completely calm. Now, Karen watches to see who backs her up and who doesn't. Alex stood and walked to the mailbox. He was gone maybe a minute. He came back holding a flyer. Neighborhood unity is everyone's duty. Those who disrupt harmony invite precautionary measures. It was printed in the same typeface as the last one, same layout, no name, no HOA logo, just a red triangle stamped at the bottom with 2 words, Phase 2 Evaluation. He flipped it over. Blank on the back. No contact info, just static menace. Where'd you get it? I asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he nodded across the street. The Jacksons' mailbox. The Jacksons. The ones who'd given him leftover cupcakes last weekend, who had a welcome mat that said, "This house runs on coffee and live, laugh, love" signs on the walls. I took the flyer and stared at it like it might bite. This isn't just about getting rid of us, I said. Sarah nodded. It's about making us the example. And if that flyer was Phase 2, then Phase 3 wasn't going to come with warnings. It was going to come with noise. The knock on my door wasn't a knock, it was a stopwatch hitting hard wood. Click. Plastic. Final. Sarah stood there in boots and a tactical shirt, no greeting, no coffee, no context. She pointed to the table. You've got 5 minutes. Map's there. Boots too. Alex looked up from his phone. Wait, what map? Are we going hiking or? Sarah didn't even glance at him. You're late. She turned and walked out without a single wasted motion, like it was just another op. I stared at the map she left behind, backyard grid lines, obstacle markers, pressure zones. My name scribbled on 3 corners. Wheels on 5. Alex looked. Is this real? Like she's serious? She's always serious, I said, lacing my boots. But now it's war serious. Alex groaned. I was going to sleep in. I smiled, Barely. So was freedom. Outside, the yard had changed overnight. Tarp tunnels zigzagged across the flower beds. Wire obstacle paths. Barrels stacked into walls. A garden hose coiled through a wheelbarrow like a makeshift minefield. "This looks like Minecraft," Alex muttered. "If Minecraft hated you." Sarah pointed to the start. "This is your route." Alex blinked. "What if I mess up?" Sarah handed him a PVC pipe. "Then you learn." Drill 1 started with a tripwire. Literal. She rigged a garden rake to fall if he stepped wrong. He didn't see it. It caught his shin hard. "Ah, seriously?" "Reset," she said. "Try again." Drill 2 was worse, a balance beam over the koi pond. Yes, the actual koi pond. He fell in. Sarah didn't laugh. Neither did I, because I was watching something else. Alex getting mad. By the third drill, he was soaked, muddy, limping, and red-faced. "This is insane," he yelled, voice cracking. "It's not real. It's just a plant. Why do I have to crawl through mud for lavender?" Sarah turned slowly. "You think this is about flowers?" Alex stood, fists balled, breathing like a winded dog. "You're acting like this is your war zone again, but it's not. It's my backyard." That stopped her for a beat. Then she walked up to him, not fast, not aggressive. She pointed to the mud on his knees, the tear in his shirt. "You think I want this? You think I like making you suffer in your own yard? For you, a free like is easy. But for me, it is the greatest support and encouragement. For this video, can you give me 1 like and 1 subscription? Thank you very much." Alex didn't answer. Sarah's voice was low, steady. "I'm doing this because I don't want the first time you fight to be the last." Silence. And then, quietly, "I just wanted to be a normal kid." Sarah's eyes softened. "And I wanted a normal life, Alex. But this isn't that life. Not anymore." She backed off, let it sit. Then she pointed at the line again. "Do it 1 more time." And this time, he did. No back talk, no eye roll, just motion, fast, fluid, quiet. By the 5th drill, he hit the low crawl like a soldier. He didn't flinch when the tarp snapped. He grabbed the intel tennis ball and rolled behind the planter. Sarah raised a brow. "Clean pull." He exhaled loud, less winded than before. At lunch, we sat in silence. The porch creaked beneath us. Alex's shirt clung to his back. He'd scraped his arm, and his cheeks were red from sun and effort. I handed him a bottle of water. He took it without a word. Sarah finally spoke. "You adapted." Alex chewed his sandwich slowly. "You're not going to say good job, are you?" "No," she said. "Not until we've survived something." After lunch, she gave me a task. "Here," she said, handing me a drone remote. "You're controlling the grid reset. If they breach the west fence, you trigger fallback protocols." My eyebrows raised. "You sure? You've been narrating long enough. Time to participate." That hit harder than it should have, but it felt right. Later that day, Alex found us wiring a new sensor into the gutter. "So, are we like preppers now?" Sarah glanced at him. "We're the line between normal and controlled." Alex nodded, like he almost understood. That night, we stood in the yard. The drills were done. The air was still. The yard glowed with silent green lights, like fireflies under surveillance. I looked at Sarah, at Alex. We weren't a unit anymore, we were a team. Alex leaned against the porch rail. "What if they come tonight?" Sarah said nothing. So I said, "Then they'll see what preparation looks like." At 2:41 a.m., the green turned red. No sirens, no shouts, just the sudden knowledge that Phase 3 had begun. The sensors flipped from green to red at 2:41 a.m. No alarms, no lights, just one soft blink on the control panel Sarah had mounted above the fireplace. It glowed like a warning only she could read. She didn't gasp, didn't flinch, she just stood up from the couch, tightened the straps on her vest, and said, "It's time." I jolted out of sleep like I'd been dunked in ice. My hand scrambled for the flashlight, useless. She was already halfway dressed, boots on, Earpiece in. Alex came barreling down the hallway, hoodie half-zipped but focused. No hesitation, no groaning, just readiness. That alone told me how much had changed. Sarah was moving through the house now, not in panic, but with rhythm. She hit every checkpoint she trained us on, locked the garage hatch, checked the crawlspace vent, passed out headsets. Her breath was calm, focused, familiar. It was terrifying, not because she was scared, but because she wasn't. Then we heard it. A deep, throaty hum rolled through the air, low and mechanical. Not a drone. Bigger, heavier, like a street sweeper loaded for war. Sarah paused, head tilted, counting beats with her fingers. Sound suppression vehicle. 2 axles. Modified tread. No siren. They're going in quiet. Alex whispered, "Do HOA usually come with tanks?" "Not tanks," she said. "Personnel intimidation units. No ammo, just fear." Out front, the porch exploded with light, but not from our system. Mobile flood units had been rolled in, tripod-mounted, aimed squarely at our windows. Then they arrived. 5 figures in a triangle formation, boots moving in sync. Thudding like a verdict. Vests black, visors down, no badges, just darkness and breath. I felt it in my spine. This wasn't a scare tactic anymore, this was a raid. Sarah ducked low and whispered into her mic, "Visual confirmation on breach team. Phase 1 lock. Fall back. Initiate passive resist." We slid through the crawlspace nook. I couldn't hear my own breath over the pounding in my chest. And then the doorbell rang once. Not a knock, just that cold, perfect ding, a ritual, a command. They didn't say a word, they didn't have to. Sarah didn't answer. Instead, the yard roared to life. The sprinklers fired, but instead of water, jets of finely sifted flour erupted into the air. A blinding white storm burst from all directions. The lead 2 intruders staggered back, coughing, shields up. Alex gasped. She actually did it. Sarah dropped from the roof like a storm cloud. She moved through the haze and detonated a flashbang loaded with marbles and pressure caps. The noise cracked so hard the windows shook. 1 soldier tripped over the hose line. Another screamed as a rigged net caught his feet. And in the distance, over a speaker, Karen's voice poured out, "This community demands peace. You've refused unity. You've escalated this. This is your final invitation to return to compliance." Calm. So calm it chilled me more than shouting would have. Sarah whispered, "False flag confirmed. Proceeding to phase 2. From the rose bush, a garden gnome tipped sideways. Smoke. Real smoke this time. Thick, chemical, military-grade fog sheet broods in sealed canning jars and sealed with waterproof timers. Visibility dropped to feet. That's when I moved, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't sit back and watch anymore. I ran to the back door, slammed the trigger on our hose rig. A blast of chalk and compressed air blinded the last man standing. He dropped his gear and rolled backward into the garden. And then Alex. He stood in the doorway, breathing hard, holding the tennis ball and held dummy from training. He looked at me once, then at Sarah, and threw it. The dummy landed right beneath Karen's mobile speaker rig. Boom. A firework of glitter and a shriek of strobe lights went off in every direction. The squad stumbled. Karen's broadcast cut out mid-sentence. Sarah stood tall in the center of it all. She raised her flare gun and fired at once into the sky, 3 sharp whistles, a signal. And then the block woke up. Windows creaked open. Porch lights clicked on. Curtains shifted. One by one, our neighbors began to see what was happening. Phones came out. Someone started recording. A woman across the street muttered, "Oh my God." An old man sat on his porch and said, almost with a chuckle, "Finally." Someone else whispered, "Is that Sarah?" And for a second, a real second, no one moved. Not Karen's squad, not us. The illusion broke. Then the soldiers fell back, one by one, retreating under the weight of eyes and lenses. No shots fired, just shame. And in that silence, standing ankle-deep in our ruined garden, Sarah finally exhaled. But she didn't smile because she knew this wasn't over. We'd won the battle, but not the story. And Karen? She was already typing the next chapter. We thought exposure would break her. That once people saw her strike squad face planting in our rose bushes, once the footage went live, shaky but damning, once the neighbors peeked out of their windows and saw flashbangs and Karen's voice on loudspeaker, we thought that would be the end. It wasn't. By 9 a.m. the next morning, Karen had already won the day. We woke up to a neighborhood-wide email memo. Subject line, clarification following last night's emergency simulation. Body, thank you to all residents for remaining calm during last night's scheduled training event. HOA safety oversight engaged in a pre-approved simulation in response to a reported disturbance. All footage being circulated is unauthorized and does not reflect context or protocol. Please report unverified content to your block's Digital Harmony representative. Digital Harmony representative? She invented a new title overnight. Sarah read the email in full twice, silent. Alex leaned over the screen. She's saying it was a what? Drill? Simulated response? Simulated response, Sarah murmured. She's not denying the footage, she's just editing it. And then it started. People who had peeked through their blinds last night, now they were glancing away when we passed. The dad down the street who'd once shared a garage door opener repaired it. He suddenly forgot my name. Our next door neighbor, the one who gave Alex graduation cookies last year, crossed to the other sidewalk when she saw us walk out for the mail. And the casserole dish Sarah had lent the Jenkins family? It came back in a plastic grocery bag, unwashed, no note, just silence. She's gaslighting the entire block, I said, pacing the living room. Sarah opened the HOA site. There it was, a new bulletin board thread, unnecessary chaos at Lot 36, HOA takes action. Post after post, each more twisted than the last. Terrifying noises last night. Kids woke up crying. Don't know what that lot is doing, it's just not safe. I support HOA respawn. Someone has to keep the peace. Why didn't they just open the door? Those people. They've changed since moving in. Alex hovered over her shoulder. Wait, this one. Look. It's posted by Kelly R_27, but she's quoting a comment from 3 threads ago, word for word. Sarah didn't blink. Same poster, different burner. I squinted. How do you know? She uses double hyphens for pauses. Same typo patterns. Sarah clicked and started screen capturing. 1, 2, 3. She dragged the files into a folder labeled Digital War. You really think this will convince anyone? I asked. No, she said. Not yet. And that's when the printed flyers appeared. Folded in thirds, left on windshields, slipped into mailboxes. Glossy, branded with the HOA logo. A simulated event does not reflect threat. We support peace. Lot 36 participated in a controlled demonstration. Your safety remains our priority. Misinformation is as dangerous as violence. Please avoid filming HOA safety personnel during active drills. One even had our names. We thank John, Sarah, and Alex for their cooperation. Alex stood in the driveway, flyer in hand. She's saying we helped. She's making us accomplices. Sarah said. That was the moment I cracked. I walked into the kitchen and slammed the cupboard so hard the spice rack exploded. Cayenne, garlic salt, and thyme scattered across the counter like shrapnel. Sarah didn't flinch. Alex didn't speak. I leaned on the counter, breathing hard. I hit one of those guys with a pressure hose. He could have broken his neck. Now I'm a volunteer in her story? Sarah finally stepped forward, laid a hand on my shoulder. She's not writing the truth, she's writing control. And there it was. The war wasn't for turf, it was for the narrative. And Karen? She was already 4 paragraphs ahead. That night, Sarah called a meeting. Just us. Porch light off, perimeter set to passive mode. She pulled out her whiteboard, the one she'd used for drills, and erased the last line. Instead, she wrote in all caps, narrative dominance equals psychological superiority. People believe the story they hear the most, she said, Not the one that's truest. The one that's loudest, sharper, stickier. Alex crossed his arms. So what do we do? Just wait for more flyers? Sarah clicked the projector on. A test loop began, clips of the raid, our home defense, the fog rolling in, cut with narration, her voice, calm, real, honest. We take the truth back. I sat down slowly, watching her pull up code, graphics, audio sync. It wasn't a slideshow, it was a war broadcast, and we weren't victims anymore. She wrote the HOA story, but we're about to stream the sequel. One broadcast, one truth, one neighborhood at a time. The truth doesn't spread itself, she continued. It needs legs, volume, and just enough polish to survive the algorithmic meat grinder. Sarah understood that better than any of us. So, we turned the living room into a war room. Not figuratively, literally. Sandbags under the window sills, Wi-Fi routed through rotating proxies. Alex covered the walls in leftover foam tiles from his failed podcast phase. Sarah had 2 laptops running on battery backups, one plugged into the generator we hadn't touched since the last hurricane season. And in the middle of it all, a green bedsheet duct taped to the wall, one ring light clamped to a broomstick, and 2 clip-on mics hanging from ceiling hooks. This wasn't high-budget production, it was resistance. We didn't open with drama, we opened with facts. Footage from our security grid, slow motion, stabilized, scrubbed clean. Overlays of heat signatures, zoom-ins of unbagged intruders. Sarah synced everything to timestamps, labeled each scene like a war tribunal exhibit. Subject 1 enters at 2:41 a.m. Subject 2 breaches rear exit. No formal protocol. No identification. She didn't raise her voice once because she didn't need to. The silence in her tone was more cutting than shouting. I recorded the narration while Alex ran camera. You sure we don't want music? He asked. Sarah didn't look up. We don't need a soundtrack. The truth doesn't scream, it just stands. By the time we finished the first cut, my voice was raw, Sarah's eyes were bloodshot, Alex's foot had gone numb under the tripod. Sarah cracked her knuckles and stood. Now we launch. Alex uploaded it through a VPN, burner email, no metadata. The video title was simple, Tactical HOA Raid of Families Footage. 12 hours later, 57,000 views. Someone mirrored it with commentary. Another translated it into Spanish and Korean. A vet subreddit tagged it Suburban Militia LARP No More. A legal reform channel picked it up with the caption, HOA Gone Tactical, Rogue Safety Patrol Breaks Protocol in Suburbia Showdown. And then local news, 3-minute segment, blurred footage, digitized voices, but Karen's voice, unedited, clear as day. By sunset, it was everywhere. Karen responded by 9 p.m. A video, tightly framed, muted beige blazer, faint piano music in the background. The footage in question is heavily edited. It does not reflect reality. It is part of a coordinated misinformation campaign. I've served this community with transparency for 7 years. I will. She looked tired but not beaten. Sarah just clicked export on a second project, version 2. She didn't answer, she just clicked play. It opened with a split screen, left, Karen's public statement, right, the uncut footage. Then came the receipts, HOA payment logs, board meeting minutes, the Sentinel Grove payment trail, all laid bare. She'd even unearthed a private HOA group chat with board members joking about neutralization drills. Alex's jaw dropped. Wait, how did you get this? Sarah sipped her tea. I still have friends in low places. The finale, a silent walkthrough of our neighborhood. Daylight. Kids playing. Dogs barking. Laughter. Then boots. Riot gear. Blinding spotlights. Then stillness again. Overlay text, which version do you want to live in? Alex watched it, then watched it again, said nothing. Sarah clicked upload, no VPN this time. She wanted the credit. Within an hour, it was trending. Karen called an emergency HOA meeting the next day, remote. Said she was stepping back temporarily. Said she was receiving threats. Said she'd been misunderstood. 3 days later, a special vote was announced. Ballots printed. Karen's name wasn't on them. That night, we sat around the table. No lights, no noise, just the three of us in the dark with the soft hum of Sarah's hard drive syncing files to the cloud. Alex broke the silence. "So, is she gone?" Sarah didn't look up. "No, but she's not running. She's not out," she said. "She's just reloading." I looked at Sarah. "She's not going to let this go, is she?" Sarah finally looked up. She built power on whispers and handshakes. "She's not going to lose in a vote. She's going to try again when the lights are off, when no one's filming." I leaned back. "So what do we do?" Sarah stared straight ahead. "We keep the lights on." Because Karen wasn't done. She was regrouping, and her last move wouldn't come through a memo. It had come through the front door. It happened on a Tuesday. No flashbangs, no boots, no blaring speakers calling us non-compliant. Just a knock. Software precise. The kind that doesn't ask for permission, just expects it. I froze for a second. My hand hovered over the knob, because after everything, after drills and drones and daylight raids, it was the silence that hit the hardest. I opened the door, and there she was. Karen. No blazer, no clipboard, no HOA badge, just a light gray sweater, neutral flats, and that smile, the one she'd worn at every potluck, every school board meeting, every unsolicited visit about our recycling bins. "Hi, John," she said, not warm, not cold, just scripted. I didn't respond. I stepped aside. Sarah was already in the hallway, silent, still, like she'd expected this exact frame. Alex stood behind her, jaw tight. Karen clasped her hands in front of her. I just wanted to talk. Sarah didn't blink. About what? Karen gave a smile, that over-rehearsed corporate smile. About moving forward, about peace, about what's best for the neighborhood. Sarah took one step closer. You lost. Karen tilted her head. And you think that's the end? Sarah's silence was sharper than any reply. Karen's eyes drifted over my shoulder toward the living room, like she still had keys to the place. You shook the system, Karen said. I'll give you that. You exposed things. You rallied people. But that energy doesn't last. People get tired. People forget. She looked back at Sarah. Order, real order, doesn't fade with one vote. Sarah folded her arms. Did you come to threaten us? No, Karen said calmly. I came to offer you a position. The words didn't make sense at first. I blinked. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Come again? You were efficient, strategic. You understand command. You kept a perimeter. You built discipline. That's what this place needs. Sarah stared at her. You want me to be your new enforcer? Karen shrugged slightly. The uniform doesn't matter. The structure does. And what happens if I say no? Sarah asked. Karen stepped back, her smile still polite. Then we'll see how long your version of peace holds. She turned and walked back down the path. No threats, no drama, just one final line tossed casually over her shoulder. Power always finds its way home. She didn't look back. Sarah closed the door, locked it. Alex let out a breath he'd clearly been holding. She's not gone, he said quietly. Sarah answered without missing a beat. She never is. That night, we didn't celebrate. We walked the yard, checked the sensors, recalibrated the cams, rewrote the fallback playbook. Alex added 2 new protocols, false peace response and diplomatic knockdown threshold. And me? I stood in the kitchen, holding the mug I'd shattered weeks ago during the first siege. We'd glued it back together. It worked fine, but the crack was still there, like a reminder. Because power doesn't always storm the gates. Sometimes it shows up in flats with a soft voice and a handshake. And if you're not ready, really ready, you let it back in. That's when I understood what Sarah had known from day one. This wasn't a war, it was a balance. And balance doesn't stay, you hold it, or you lose it. So when power knocks politely, you better remember exactly why you reinforced the door.